Good morning, or good afternoon. So, I realize I'm in an empty room talking to myself, but it occurred to me that for the replays, it will make more sense if I talk more as I'm painting, so you get a better gist of what's going on. So I'll just do that a bit, whether or not anyone's here. So, I hope everybody's enjoying online Gen Con. Don't forget to follow the links in the description to my site if you want to check out what I have available in my shop for the event. I have originals, prints, some playmats featuring my work. What else? I'll be streaming every day, noon to 1 on this painting, The Chosen One. So I'll be back tomorrow and Sunday. You can kind of see it come along. And I'm gonna get started. So what I'm doing now is I am building up my underpainting in cool tones. I'm sort of painting the cool shadows in the flesh first, and then I'm going to be building up the warm tones on top of that. It's kind of a backwards process for watercolor, but it's one I've developed for myself that I like because I find that it helps kind of put those cool shadows under the surface of the skin. And it helps me understand kind of like a cohesive value structure right from the beginning. It's important to not treat it like, it's not a full like grisaille underpainting like you might do in an oil painting. Because with watercolor, as I build those additional layers on top, they're all going to be transparent. Nothing in watercolor, at least not with the methods I use, is opaque. So this is all going to shine through those additional layers. So if I did this like a full value study in blue and then tried to build on top of it, it would be kind of nauseating. It would be too much. So I'm really just kind of looking for those cool shadows. You can also see that in these areas here, I have these additional hands partially masked out with stick-on plastic, Frisket, and also liquid masking fluid. Ultimately, the hands from this figure are going to be sort of reaching through the figure in the front, and I wanted this sort of blending effect where when I pull this masking fluid off, there are going to be some sort of rough brush strokes and shapes through those hands, but also blank areas left for me to go back and develop these hands more. That's also how I created these shapes here that are weaving through this other figure. Those were originally shapes created by masking fluid. The masking fluid is gone now, so they're just the interesting shapes are left. There's a trailer video on my channel that shows how I started this painting, if you want to check that out so you can see a bit more of how those layers of masking fluid kind of came together. Hey, how are you? I just have been turning my mic on and off periodically because the air conditioning was coming up and was making an annoying loud noise. So feel free if you have any questions to leave them in the chat because I'm keeping an eye on it and I'll answer any questions as they come up. I hope you guys are having a good virtual Gen Con so far. some bonus dog barks in the background. That's Zephyr. He's upstairs and he just woke up. And he's mad that he woke up and he's by himself up there. Eventually he'll come downstairs. Here comes the puppy dog. Yeah. Can you see him? Come here. Here he is. Here's Zephyr. So these shapes, these sort of flame-like shapes coming off the sword, were made previously with masking fluid that's gone now. And I have to decide how prominent I want those shapes to be. If I want them to be, I think I want them to be kind of just like a subtle energetic thing. But I don't want to lose them too much because they're cool. I like working this big. I like that I can be more kind of gestural and energetic with the quality of the painting. This is the biggest watercolor I've done to date. I do often work full sheet watercolor, which is usually 22 by 30. This is larger. This is 30 by 41 approximately. It's like an oversized sheet. And it was a little tricky figuring out how to set up my studio to best work on it. Normally I will clip it to a board like this, but I'll just have it resting or propped on my drawing table, and I had to totally just move the drawing table out of the way. And I put it on a travel watercolor easel, but I had to kind of brace the easel against the wall for it to hold something this big. It needs to have at least some slant to it to be able to do watercolor effectively. But I can't slant it quite as much as I normally would like to, because then I can't reach it, because then my legs hit the bottom of it. So it's a little tricky. I think that's probably why traditionally, watercolors don't often go above a certain size, just because of the logistics of how it needs to be done. Right? I can't do it completely vertical like an oil painting, because the wet paint will just drip right down it, which is cool for some stuff, but not always what I'm going for. So trying to figure out how to handle this sword is going to be a little tricky. So far I think it's going okay, but it's like I have to definitely step back and look at it, especially as I get closer to the end of the painting, and make sure that it's reading as, that there's nothing geometrically weird about it. It's big, so it can tolerate some variation of, weird painterly marks up close, but from a distance, like it's got to look straight. It can't look like it's warped or messed up. So that's making me a little nervous because I'm not, tight geometric things are not necessarily my strong suit, but we will see how it goes. So far, so good, I think. I am gonna zoom out the camera a little bit so you can see the bottom of the composition as I kind of finish up some of this cool underpainting. You can see my references, I print them out really big. I print them out pretty much the size I'm actually painting. Working this big, it's a little annoying because I can't have them quite as close to the painting as I want to. Sometimes if I'm working on a detail area, like if I'm working on the face, I might actually just bring the reference over and lay it on part of the painting while I'm working. Right now they're just kind of to the side. The references are photos that I shot of a model of a friend in armor. I tend to definitely be more of an observational painter as the basis for what I do than an imaginative. I mean, my themes are imaginative, but in terms of, some artists are more, they really like to kind of daydream and make things up out of their head a lot. And I really like observing. I've done, at various times in my life, I've done a lot of plein air painting, some still life painting, but didn't find the subjects quite as interesting. So I really like working with models in costume that I put together for my pieces. And then I do paint fairly closely to my reference, but then I do things where I layer imagery together in a surreal way, which is one of the ways that I keep it interesting, that I'm not just taking a photo and then doing sort of an exact painting of the photo, because that can also get kind of boring. even though I enjoy the process. So it's taken time to kind of figure out like what process and method makes me happiest as a painter and is sort of like unique to me as a painter. So when I'm doing these, this cool underpainting, it's really a technique I started with more for my flesh tones as a way to get that cool element into the flesh. But then for the sake of consistency, I do also kind of pull it into the rest of the painting to map the shadow areas everywhere else. At least a little bit. I'm not worried about the full value range here. I'm not trying to get my darkest darks with this cool underpainting. And I do also think that ultimately I want a lot of this armor to be a lot warmer. So we'll build up on top of that, but for these big shapes in the armor, I'm not, I'm using a pretty big brush and I'm not being super picky about it. It's more like the big shapes and the gesture of the thing that from a distance will read more realistically. But it's not like the tight little details in the face where it really has to be more accurate to come across right. I can get away with being looser here, and so I do, because I like also having that energy in the painting. I think that lately in my work, especially like with the detail work and faces, I've tightened up more, and I want to try to like remind myself to stay looser in areas, because I think of that as part of my voice as an artist, but sometimes it is also easy to get overly caught up in detail and precision and just make it all too stiff. You can kind of see there's also a fair bit of masking fluid down here in these shapes, kind of like this, for that were done in the background. When the figures are done, I'm going to pull the rest of that off, and I'll have shapes that I'm going to start to weave flowers on top of. I'm switching to a very big brush now because I think I want to just kind of knock all of this section back in shadow. So why struggle with a small brush? But don't have to. Just get it done. I'm not even really sure how much of this down here with her knees is going to show up in the finished piece once I weave all the flowers and everything over, but we'll see. So before I log off for this session, let me show you, I thought it'd be interesting to show you another one of my reference mock-ups here. This here, let's zoom back in. So this is a digital mock-up I made for myself with my reference photos that I put together as kind of a thumbnail rather than doing a painted or a sketch thumbnail. I often just move my references around in Photoshop. So I have this as kind of a rough guide of where I'm headed with the layering of the images and the colors and the values. So that should kind of give you some idea of what's going on. The concept for the painting is, if you look closely, you can see that both figures are the same figure. It's the same person, the same costume, the same face, and they're kind of woven together in this ghostly way. And the idea is sort of that one is bestowing the sword upon the other, or giving a call to action to the other, but they're both herself. And the title of the painting is The Chosen One. So often in mythology, the Chosen One gets this call to adventure from an outside source, that it's this outside source that calls you to have this special destiny, and you're waiting, for it to be bestowed upon you. By fate or destiny or something like that. But I like the idea that the one who's calling her is herself. She's choosing herself. She's not waiting to be chosen or called by some special outside force. So that's kind of the idea for that. I hope you come back. I'll be here again tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, through the rest of Gen Con, doing sessions on this painting. So Take care.